Hi lovelies, it's Bronte Spicer, and today I want to talk about why talk therapy isn't for everyone. I'm coming from 20 years of personal experience of having depression and going through the traditional mental health model. And I'm also a Killer Bee Inquiries facilitator, and I support people to befriend, unhook from their negative stories and to process their big feelings. So talk therapy is the general traditional therapy that you receive when you go and see a psychologist or a counsellor. And you may have experienced this, and my experience shows me that I received talk therapy and I walked away from that therapy session after session after session, feeling like there was something wrong with me because my depression wasn't going away. It wasn't my mental health wasn't improving. And so I thought, well, these are the modalities that are offered. This is a therapy that's offered. This is the service that's provided. There must be something wrong with me because I'm not getting any better. And at the time I was taking antidepressants as well, but none of that was really taking the depression away. So fast forward 20 years from the start of my depression, I stumbled upon the Killer Bee Inquiries, which is a set of advanced or applied mindfulness techniques to unhook you from your negative sense of self and to process those big painful memories that we hold deep within us. So to understand why talk therapy doesn't work for everyone, I guess first we need to know what talk therapy essentially is. Talk therapy or cognitive behaviour therapy is a process where we talk through our problems, and we also look at how we're using our language and our self-talk, and we rearrange our thoughts and our thinking so it's more positive. And so we're feeling better about the future. The problem with that is that when we try and change and think positively and change our language and change our mindset and change our thinking from negative to positive, for anyone who's got a mental illness, you'll know that it's very exhausting to continue to try and keep on top of that negativity. And that actually exacerbated the problem when I had therapists and loved ones telling me that I needed to think positively and I needed to change my thinking. I essentially thought, well, there must be something really wrong with me because I can't even think properly. I'm not even thinking the right way. I'm even getting thinking wrong. So there's a whole heap of neuroscience, latest findings on trauma and how that impacts the brain and the body. And finally, we have evidence and an understanding, a scientific understanding, explaining and showing us why talk therapy doesn't work. And for us to know that, we need to know what trauma is, because we have this cultural understanding of what trauma is, and now we understand on a scientific level what trauma is. So our traditional, conventional, old understanding of what trauma is it's a severely distressing event or experience. And we often think about something like a car crash or rape or war, something really big like that. And that's referred as by trauma specialists as big T or big trauma. What we have only just started to recognise is little trauma, little t. And so they are experiences that from the outside world, it doesn't look like a big deal, but on the internal world, inside of ourselves, we're falling apart. And that can be something as simple as a caregiver not giving us the time that we need, or being like a small remark from someone that's really crushed you. And what happens from those little traumas, those seemingly insignificant moments, which are completely significant, what happens is that we create meaning out of those experiences about ourselves. We might say something like, I don't belong, I'm unlovable, there's something wrong with me, I'm weak. And they are our core deficiency stories or deficiency stories that then we believe we identify with as who we are. And they get stored in the body as emotional memory and trauma. The other thing from a scientific point of view is that when we when we have a traumatic experience, and I wanted to share a quote with you from Dan Siegel, who's a leading trauma specialist. He says that trauma is an experience that overwhelms our capacity to cope. So when we experience when we have a traumatic experience, what's happening is that our brains and our bodies are overwhelmed with like too much information and energy. So much information that comes through our nervous system, through neuroception it's called. It's when our receptors in our nervous system are picking up information from our environment, signaling to the brain that we are unsafe and we're in a threatening experience. So that information comes to the brain, but the brain is so overwhelmed by so much information and energy that the brain doesn't do its job properly. It cannot compute all of the information in that one moment. So then what happens is that the emotional memory attached to that experience becomes unprocessed, displaced. Sometimes our sense of self becomes shattered. It kind of becomes dislodged and displaced and scattered. And because our brain can't make sense of the situation, we are left with unprocessed emotional memory in our bodies. We can call that trauma in the body. So we now know that trauma is in the body. So when we come back to talk therapy, we are really just engaging the mind. We're not engaging the body. And so when you're sitting in a session with a psychologist or a counsellor and you're receiving cognitive behaviour therapy, you're just talking about what's happened and there is no connection with what's happening in the body. So the value of something like the Killer Bee Inquiries is a somatic-based or body-based approach to processing those big situations that have happened for you. So you will have you'll have memories of what's happened in the past. You'll have, and if this is causing distress for you, then please reach out to either us or Lifeline or your medical professional. And so the Killer Bee Inquiries gives you practical techniques, like practical things that you can do to process those memories that you hold. Because generally what we do is we block them out, and perhaps in a talk therapy session we'll start to talk about the experience, which then actually activates and we relive the experience. We don't just remember the experience. When we think about it, we are reliving the experience. So what happens from a nervous system level is that when we experience a traumatic event, the hippocampus goes offline when our cortisol and adrenaline levels increase. And that's a good thing. We need cortisol to fight or flight from that experience. We're in that protective state. Our body is helping us with that increased level of cortisol and adrenaline. But it shuts off the hippocampus, and which shuts off our memory. So that's why we're kind of scattered. We can't really remember. We might have fragments of memory, and we can't really piece it all together as one whole piece. So in terms of the nervous system, what can happen is if we have not processed our emotions from an experience, then the nervous system stays in a hypervigilant state, either in a hypervigilant state in that like semi-fight-flight response, or our dorsal response is activated, which is that shutdown, freeze, collapse, or like dazed, you're dazed. You're not really present in conversations. You're not really present in your body. You're not really present in your life. It's more like you're just watching your life go by, and you're not really in life. So that's called the freeze or please response. And sometimes we can become submissive, people pleasers, and really not put our needs first. So in order to come and process and complete the trauma cycle, it's called, by completing the trauma cycle, we must come down into the body. And it wasn't until I found the Killer Bee Inquiries that I had the practical tools, the framework, the step-by-step approach, the exact steps to take to be able to process the big things that happened for me in my life and the negative stories I had about myself from those direct experiences. So the Killer Bee Inquiries is life-changing. I no longer have depression. I no longer have to take antidepressants. I now experience so much more pleasure in my body. I feel so much safer in who I am. I feel so much more comfortable in who I am. I am able to connect with others without putting on special masks or pretending to be someone. I actually have the freedom to be myself, which is fucking liberating. So if you have not had a KI session, I invite you to have a go with one of us. There is a team right across the globe who facilitates and guides the Killer Bee Inquiries. My heart will always go out to Scott Killaby and Dan McClintock, who came up with the Killer Bee Inquiries. So I'm going to guide you through some natural rest. But before I say that, I just want, if you take anything from this video, I want you to know that there is nothing wrong with you if you are not getting better by talk therapy. And it's like so many more people need to know that if you're not getting better from talk therapy, then it's not you. The current mental health model is not complete. It's incomplete because it's most at this current moment, and it's going to change because more psychologists and counsellors and mental health professionals are learning about this now. They're learning about the mind-body connection and the science behind trauma. But at this moment, if you're receiving talk therapy and you're not getting better, it's not because there's something inherently wrong with you. If you're looking for something different that might potentially work for you, as it has done for me, then reach out to someone, to a Killer Bee Inquiries facilitator. Okay, so I'm going to take you through some guided natural rest, which is the basis. It's another word for natural rest is mindfulness, but I love the word natural rest. And I'm going to guide you through some natural rest because this is how we start. We always start with natural rest. We return our nervous systems back to a place of calm and equilibrium and rest. So then we can process the bigger stuff when we're ready. So when you're ready, if you can close your eyes if that feels safe for you. Otherwise, if you can, just downcast your eyes. And start by taking some slow, deep breaths. And as you take those slow, deep breaths, can you place your attention on the feeling of your breath in your body? And you might be able to feel your breath in your nostrils, through your throat, through your chest, or your abdomen. And you can either hold your attention on all four of those areas or somewhere else, or just one of them. You might be able to hear your breath. Now start to put more weight on the chair where you're seated. See if you can bring more of your body weight to the chair. It's almost like you're saying, yes, I'm here on this chair and I don't need to move anywhere. Check into your shoulders. See if they can drop. Can your jaw drop? Can you imagine your hip bones coming to the floor? Now start to listen to the sounds you can hear. Without creating a story about it, is there space to just have those sounds wash over your ears? Now start to listen for the sound of silence in between the sounds. Now put your attention on the space, the air temperature that touches your skin. Notice how it feels, that air on your skin, your face, your neck, your hands, your ears. Is it warm or cool? Does it have a fragrance when you sniff it? Can you feel how it feels to have clothing on your body? And now start to bring your attention to your body and start to notice what physical sensations you can feel in your body. Bring a cup of curiosity and be interested, noticing how these sensations feel. Opening up the space around these sensations so they have more space to move and breathe and dance. Is there space to allow these sensations to be just as they are, without trying to shift or change or get rid of them? Can you say to these sensations, thank you for being here? You're welcome to stay as long as you like. I love you. Notice how it feels to just allow your body to be just as it is. And just starting to deepen your breath. Starting to listen to the sound of your breath again. reconnecting to the physical surroundings that you're in. And as you open your eyes, is there space to stay connected and to still feel the sensations in your body? And is there still space to allow those sensations to be here, even with your eyes open? The more that you practice those moments, these exact moments of staying with the physical sensations in the body, the more connected you'll feel, the more alive you'll feel, the more pleasure you'll feel in your body, in your life. The safer you'll feel connected with others and being in the world. Thank you so much for joining me. I'd love to know how you felt after that guided natural rest. Let me know if you have any questions. Let me know if you have any uncertainties. It doesn't have to be a positive feeling. If you're feeling something uncomfortable, that's welcome too. So I'm just about to, I'm in the final stages of editing my book called It's Okay to Cry, on my whole story of having depression and overcoming it using the Killer Bee Inquiry. So that will be out in 2 months' time, which I'm very excited to have this out for you to read. So yeah, just so you know that there's other options. If talk therapy isn't working for you, there are other options that work. Thanks for joining me, and I'll see you next time.